and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And good morning and welcome to the March 18th meeting. I remind you to silence your cell phones. Meeting documents are on the end of the counter for your review. And Robert would have listening devices. He's in the front row if you would need listening devices. With that, we will move on.
Routine business. Item 1 is consider a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any additional comments or corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Item 2 is to approve the County Commission minutes of March 11th, 2014.
I'll move the minutes.
I have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. Are there any comments, additions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Item 3 are bills to be paid in the amount of $467,017.28.
Pay the bills.
I have a motion.
Second.
A second. Any comments or questions?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Barth.
today again we have in excess of 100 individual bills on mental illness.
Any other comments? I have a motion and a second to pay the bills for $467,017.28. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Item 4 are reports. The Register of Deeds official statement of fees collected during February 2014 has been received, and that is placed on file in the auditor's office. Item 5 is personnel actions. A is a motion to approve routine personnel actions.
I'll move routine action.
A motion and a second to approve routine action. Any questions for Carrie? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
And item B is consider a motion for special personnel action to approve a 5% temporary pay increase for Jen Addicks, Human Resources, effective March 17, 2014.
Good morning. This request represents some plan changes in our office while I delegate some duties to Jen, both because of an intermittent leave request that I'm looking at and also because of workload issues.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the special action of 5% increase in temporary pay increase for Jen Atkins. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Item number 6 are application for abatement. Pam Nelson, is that first?
We have 7 abatements for the purposes of an elderly tax freeze. We have record ID 32551 for $895.56. We have record ID 41617 for $698.32. We have record ID 41635 for $908.52. We have record ID 45202 for $202.42. We have record ID 46499 for $776.94. We have record ID 48587 for $425.71, and we have record ID 56669 for $1,102.06. I appreciate your support.
Make a motion to approve items A through G.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve items A through G, which are all elderly freezes. Comment, Commissioner Barth.
Just in looking at the remarks, clearly people forgot to do it. There was a person who broke their hip and didn't get it done. But let the word go forth that in order to do this, you have to come in every year and hand in your paperwork.
Any other comments? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next abatements are from Kyle Helseth.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have a rather full schedule this morning. These are all from the City of Sioux Falls from January and February. They only hear them once a month, so it tends to flood us, especially during March and October. The first request this morning is from the City of Sioux Falls, record ID 10645, in the amount of $684.34. They purchased 110 acres of agricultural land for a lift station.
How many acres?
110 acres.
We're going to do these in sections, so this would be item H, a tax exempt status for the City of Sioux Falls. I would look for a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
They're buying more ag land than they need, and they are reducing our tax base by doing that.
Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. Kyle, we will move on.
The next up is the First United Methodist Church, record ID record 31437, in the amount of $1,846.68.
And we will do this one separately, too. This is a house removed. Item I. Have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Are there any comments? I have a motion and a second for item I. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Next section.
Next item J is for April, and I've messed this name up more than once. Camerig, record ID 83398, 2013 property taxes in the amount of $706.64. This is the difference between the owner-occupied and the non-owner occupied.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item J for $706.64. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Next up is Pamela Thorson, record ID 80207, 2013 property taxes in the amount of $1,694.45. This is the difference between the owner-occupied and the non-owner occupied.
Okay. And we can probably do K through N together, so if you want to read them all, Kyle.
L is Lori Entenman, record ID 77480, 2013 property taxes in the amount of $1,308.97. Item M, Aaron Nyberg, record ID 24899, 2013 property taxes in the amount of $1,432.46. And item N, No Sorto, record ID 33958, 2013 property taxes in the amount of $298.43.
Okay. I'd look for a motion to approve K through N on owner-occupied status.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve those owner-occupied. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Item O is a Kelly Spielman, record ID 78498, 2011 through 2013 property taxes in the amount of $1,930.01. We're recommending denial.
We're going to do this one singularly too for record ID number 78498. This was denied by the City of Sioux Falls and does not meet our standards.
And we've been approving these routinely. What was the significant factor that resulted in this non-approval?
There never was a application filed, and we have sent numerous applications out in the last 3 years to this person. I think they finally realized the taxes were a lot higher as non-owner occupied.
Did they at least file it now going
Yes.
forward?
Yes.
All right.
All right, I'm looking for a motion.
Move to deny.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to deny for the amount of $1,930.01. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. The next one are tax exempt status.
The next ones are the properties the Sioux Falls School District bought to build, I believe, their new middle school or grade school, I can't remember which. They purchased an inordinate amount of housing to expand one of their schools. And I'll go down the record IDs. It is Sioux Falls School District record ID 30934 in the amount of $282.24. Record ID 37294 in the amount of $1,080.56. Record ID 37295 in the amount of $504.85. Record ID 37296 in the amount of $108.88. Record ID 37297 in the amount of $1,012.16. Record ID 37298 in the amount of $882.64. Record ID 37299 in the amount of $1,031.13. Record ID 37300 in the amount of $1,005.11. Record ID 37301 in the amount of $1,046.78. Next page, record ID 39296, excuse me, in the amount of $1,139.63. Record ID 39297 in the amount of $798.20. Record ID 40088 in the amount of $663.40. Record ID 51253 in the amount of $1,386.75. Record ID 51254 in the amount of $725.94. Last but not least, record ID 51256 in the amount of $1,046.55 for a grand total of $12,714.82.
Any questions for Kyle?
Kyle, it looks like most of these are the Mark Twain removals,
Correct.
and the tax exempt starts the day that the school district took possession?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
This would be items P through double D
I'll make the motion.
to approve.
I'm reluctant because I hate that name change. I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion.
I'll reluctantly second it.
I have a motion and a second for a tax exempt status for items P through double D. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. And sadly, all these properties today, that's tax dollars that the county has lost. And
I would like to
city
make a
school
comment
district.
on that. I just think it's awful that they took a long-standing, almost 100-year district and changed it from Mark Twain District to some other name.
Thank you.
Because I had 3 generations of family go there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Item number 7, notices and requests. Item A is to authorize the county auditor to publish a notice to bidders for project MC 251BR-14, replacement of structures 50-294-070, located on 251st Street on Pipestone Creek. DJ Boothie.
Good morning, Commissioners. DJ Boothie, Highway Superintendent. This is a structure that we've been working on completing the final design. It's on a township road in the northeast part of the county. You should have a map in your bid packet there, and requesting today for your permission to authorize the advertising to have the construction contract advertised for construction.
Are there any questions for DJ regarding the authorization of publish to notice? To
DJ,
bidders?
will this be a culvert? I drove over that bridge. It's
This is a unique type of structure because it is literally sitting on the bedrock. The bedrock is open to the surface, and so it's a 3-sided rigid frame is what it's called. And so if you imagine a box culvert without a base, that's the type of structure that this is.
the base,
The floor.
okay.
Any other questions for DJ?
I make a motion to authorize notice to bidders.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to authorize the county auditor to publish notice to bidders on the project MC 251BR number 14. All those in favor say aye.
One comment, thank you for putting in that traffic count.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Item B, the East Dakota Water Development District, notice of meeting 9 a.m. Thursday, March 20th, 2014, at the EDWDD office, 132B Airport Avenue, Brookings, South Dakota, has been received. There are no planning and zoning notices. There are no petition for compromise of lien. The next item is an opportunity for public comment.
This is the time when someone can speak about anything that's not on the agenda. Good morning again, DJ.
Just wanted to make a comment that we posted our some of our roads for reduced load limit for spring load limits yesterday on Monday. A news release was sent out last week to a number of agencies and organizations and contractors just to post it. By law, we're allowed to post spring load limits until April 30th unless the commission passes a resolution. And so we'll be considering that in April. I'm not aware of anything in the recent past where we've gone past April 30th, but that is an option if it's needed.
Are there any questions for DJ? I just have one. Did we put signs up at those places where we have the loads limits?
Yes.
Okay, so there are posted signs on all those places too, so thank you. Any other person that wants to speak for opportunity of public comment? Okay, seeing them, go on.
Regular business, item 10, presentation of the 2014 Minnehaha County Highway Department Construction Project Summary. DJ Boothie.
All right, Commissioners, a few weeks ago, I guess it was probably a month ago, Cindy and I had a conversation and wanted to just go through an active project update, things that we have both in construction and design, essentially just projects that we're actively working on right now. And so I've got this PowerPoint prepared that we'll just go through and summarize all of the different projects that we're working on. This is our active project map, and it shows, no, this is the weight load limit map. And this shows, it's kind of small, but you can see all the different bridge postings that we have throughout the county. And I wanted to show this first just because as you well know, this is really our top priority right now, taking care of our posted bridges throughout the county. We have a couple of them on our county highway system, and then the rest of them are on township roads. I think that there's somewhere in the range of 30 currently posted bridges in our system. There we go. That's the 2014 project map, and that shows all of the different projects. The green circles are bridge replacements that we're currently working on. The red circle or the pink circles are bridge rehab projects that we're currently working on, and the purple, I will call it, the lines, the two different lines are the microsurfacing project, and the yellow lines are the chip seal project, and the green lines are the overlay project. So we have a lot of work this year that we're going to try to get done. We're going to get done as much as we can within our personnel constraints and our budget restraints. And so I put together a priority listing of our projects that are active, and to be honest, I hope that you don't get stuck on the priority rating, because our priorities change quite a bit depending on different things that happen during the project. One really good example is just the permitting process. We have a lot of hang-ups during permitting with the Army Corps of Engineers, and that can really change the priority of a project when we find out that the project will be delayed for 6 months. And so what we've identified here as priority number one is the two bridge replacements that we have left on the Eros Road, County Highway 121. We've already awarded that contract and had a pre-construction meeting. Prom Construction is the contractor for that project. The project cost is just over $1 million, and that consists of two different bridges on the county highway. That is just south of the two bridges that we replaced last year, and like I said, we just had the pre-construction meeting. I think that they plan on starting here in April, beginning of April. Priority number two is our asphalt microsurfacing project. Just earlier today, you authorized, or later today, you'll be authorizing the contract for that project, hopefully. We received excellent bids for that contract at $404,000 for the low bid. Our bid estimate was just over $700,000. So we've been working pretty close with contractors and the City of Sioux Falls and a couple consultants here locally, trying to make these projects come together. And so this year we have 8.9 miles of microsurfacing, and we're really excited about this project. This project that we did do in-house design, and we will be doing in-house construction administration. We were originally planning on going with the City of Sioux Falls on their bid with them and a couple other municipalities, and we ended up pulling out at the last minute, as you know, and our bids that we received that we're hopefully going to be awarding today were significantly cheaper than the unit prices that the City of Sioux Falls had on their contract. Priority number three is the low slump overlay project on a bridge just southwest of Garrettson, and we have that already awarded to PCI Roads at a cost of $221,000. It's a 255-foot structure that we're just doing a deck rehab, basically, with the low slump overlay. They hope to start construction there again next month. Project number 4 is the northeast part of Del Rapids there, right by the school, the one that we've been talking about with the school district. We have a construction contract awarded to Dakota Contracting out of Sioux Falls, $361,000 for that project. And they're hoping to begin in June, right after school gets out. The chip seal project is our priority number 5. We want to do almost 42 miles of the chip seal this year, and we're expecting that contract price to be just over $900,000, and we have a bid opening for that tomorrow. We also do that project in-house, both with putting the plans together and observing the construction. Priority number 6 is our asphalt overlay, and you can see that we've got that broken up into 3 different areas of the county. The northeast part of the county, the southeast part of the county are both contracted work, and then the northwest part of the county will be our own crew putting a mainline overlay on a few miles of roadway up there. The approximate cost that we're looking at there is just about $1.5 million, and that is another contract that we're going to be opening bids tomorrow. Priority number 7 are 2 structure replacements that we had designed by IDG, and we've talked about that this contract the last couple of weeks between the commission and the consultant and the township that we have out there, and we expect the total cost around $675,000 for the 2 bridges to be replaced. One of them currently is a 38-foot bridge, and one of them is a 62-foot bridge, and we're looking forward to getting those replaced. And you can see in the pictures there on the top right picture, where even though that bridge there was built in I think 1970, we're looking at some unique situations structurally with that bridge, and we want to get it off of our system. Priority number 8 is a bridge replacement on the county highway that is functionally obsolete. It's a narrow bridge, and that is a corridor that we have a lot of trucking, especially coming from Minnesota, and we have a lot of contractors that need to be rerouted when they come in from that part of the county because they can't go across this bridge. And so, actually, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm sorry. That is on a township road, and that is the one that that we just asked for permission to advertise. I looked at the wrong structure. Sorry about that. Again, the project that we just requested authorization to advertise, and the approximate construction cost for that is $370,000. HDR Engineering did the design, and like I told Commissioner Kelly, that's a unique design with a three-sided structure with basically a box culvert without a base. Project number 9, or priority number 9, is this is the bridge that I was referencing previously. That is a functionally obsolete structure on our county highway system. It is also posted, and this provides a headache for a lot of contractors and moving companies that are traveling east to west or west to east throughout our county. They want to use that road as a corridor, and they're not able to without zigzagging north and south up around the county. The approximate cost for that is $475,000, and we're proposing a 50-foot single-span bridge to replace this bridge. Priority number 10 is a set of structures right now. One of them is a bridge, and one of them is a box culvert that are immediately adjacent to one another. And our plan is to remove both of those structures and replace them with a single bridge, or I'm sorry, a single box culvert. The approximate cost is around $400,000, and we hope to start this construction project later summer. And this is one of the projects that we're looking at that's probably delayed right now because of some permitting issues. Project number 11 is a structural rehab project for a structure that is on the northeast corner of Brandon. It's right at the edge of city limits on a township road. It's a pretty long structure at 285 feet, and it's showing its age, and we want to just take care of the structure before it eventually gets annexed into the city of Brandon. We don't want to have another issue like we had last year with the City of Sioux Falls, where they annexed a bridge and ended up having to replace it that same year. And so we're just doing our due diligence by rehabbing the structure, repairing some structural items, and replacing the joints that are in the bridge, and upgrading the guardrail and that type of thing. Priority number 12 is a structure that we have SEH working on right now. This one is also currently being delayed because of some, I believe, permitting issues is the reason for the delay on this one. Yes, permitting issues are the reason for delay. We've received 60% plans and are going through the plan review process, and the plans are also in Omaha with the Army Corps of Engineers. We had initially wanted to start this construction project in May. That's going to have to be delayed. Next project is project number 13. We have bridge replacement on a township road just east of Highway 11 and north of Crooks, or north of Brandon, and we're doing a low water crossing to replace a small structure, and the approximate cost of that is just over $100,000. And we are not replacing the bridge, like I said, a low water crossing. With a low water crossing, basically you lower the road as it is today and allow overflow waters to go over the roadway, and you put a signage to advance warn the travelers of the road that there is a low water crossing, and if there's high water flow, they know not to go there. There are three 36-inch pipes that are under the road near the low water crossing that allows the nuisance water, the normal daily water, to go to travel under the roadway without impacting traffic. This roadway has an extremely small amount of traffic. The traffic estimates that we have from the DOT are very, very small. I'm not going to cite a number.
Why not?
But they are very, very small. And there's another structure just north of this that, when it comes time, we'll probably look at closing that structure as opposed to replacing it. And the point about the traffic counts, we did receive our traffic counter in the mail last week, and so moving forward, we're going to not only have our estimated DOT traffic counts in our briefing memos, but we will have actual counts in our briefing memos for the commission to consider. Some other notable projects that we have currently under construction with Swing In Construction and the Department of Transportation is our Spook Road Bridge just southeast of Brandon, project that they started last fall. The total project cost of that is $719,000, and as you guys have heard before with your approvals on this project, we pay 20% of, I think, $520,000 or so, the participating costs, and so our obligation on that is just over $100,000. Another project of interest is La Mesa Avenue, just north of Sioux Falls. Long story short, now is not the time. We will be giving the commission a presentation or a discussion on this here in the next few weeks. But La Mesa Avenue was intended to be turned over to the township several years ago, several decades ago, and that action was never completed. And so the township has been taking care of this section of roadway for quite some time. And we found out recently that it was never officially turned over to them. And coincidentally, it is in need of upgrade to an asphalt section with the installation of the Sioux Falls Middle School on Madison Street right there. And so, being is that it's a township or a county road, we'll probably look at doing a surfacing improvement project on this section of road at possibly a cost of about $200,000 sometime this summer. But like I said, we're going to be giving a briefing to the commission here in the next couple of weeks to discuss that more in depth. So this is a little bit of a summary of the projects that I just went over, and the projects that are listed towards the top that have a darker shade, those are projects that have been awarded or are under construction, but essentially the money is allocated already to those projects. The projects that are in the center that have a little bit lighter shading, those are somewhere in the process of advertising or going to be advertised, but have not been awarded any contract yet. And then the projects on the bottom that have no shading, that are white, those are currently active. Maybe they're in design, or maybe they are completed design, but they haven't been advertised or anything yet. And so those are a list of the active projects. If you total that entire group of projects, the estimated total project cost is $7.3 million. And you can see there that this year our total available budget for those projects is $4 million. And the reason that total project cost is significantly higher than what the total available budget is, a number of reasons. Some of these projects aren't 2014 construction projects. They might be 2015. I think that there's even one that is in our long-range plan for 2016, but we're trying to move the project forward because of prioritization with the needs of the structure. We understand that our budget is $4.1 million, and we're not going to be going over that without consideration by the commission. We will be probably looking at and talking about this prioritization a lot more in the future because we are going to want to be able to continue doing projects if there is money available. We know that the highway fund right now is pretty healthy, and there's probably a $3 million to $4 million available budget that we could put towards projects if we amended the budget. And so we'll be looking at that. If that does not happen, what we're doing is basically designing these projects and shelving the plans once we have the projects designed. And what that does for us is when we have a project that comes up with maybe a permitting issue that delays the project for 6 months, essentially what that does is that makes us not able to construct that project this year. We're going to have to move that to next year. We want to have shelved designed projects ready to go so we can still use our available budget and get projects done. And what we've done in the past, what has typically been done in the past is we design the project in the spring, we construct it in the summer. And that doesn't allow for any problems to happen during design or permitting or bidding. And so if there is problems that happen, that delays the contract. And what we want to have happen is eventually is we design a project one year and we construct it the following year. That allows us to bid it during off-season bid times, better prices, and then also when we run into problems with permitting or bidding, we have backup plans. And so a lot of these projects will end up just being shelved and will be done maybe next year. Another thing to note, this year the state legislature had a bill, HB 1261, that was trying to authorize the state to have a $5 million fund established for the construction, for assisting grants to the counties and townships for construction of bridges. It ended up not passing, but had that passed, they would have had $5 million to spend this year on county system bridges. And if we were sitting there with shelf projects ready to go, we would have been able to probably get some of that money and we'll go forward with the project. And so things like that do happen, not on a frequent basis, but they certainly do happen, and there's an acknowledgement by the state and the legislature that there's additional funding that needs to come from somewhere. And so if that funding does become available, we want to be ready to move with projects. This is just a graph that shows the highway fund balances over the last several years, over the last five or 6 years. And you can see generally in the beginning of the year, we're not doing a lot of construction work and our revenues are coming in, so the highway fund balance goes up and it peaks sometime in June or July. And then that's when we start paying out a lot on our construction projects, and so the fund balance goes down quite a bit. And what we've talked about multiple times is at the end of the year, that's typically where our low point is throughout the year. We want that to be between $2 and $3 million to be able to have funds on hand in case there is an emergency that happens. And you can see at the beginning of this year or the end of last year, we had just under $5.5 million. And so I think there's probably $3 million right there that is available for projects if the commission chooses to move forward on projects that are scheduled for future years, if we're ready to move on them. So that's all that slide is showing, that there is money available in the highway fund, and we recognize a high need for projects, and we would like to move forward with them. We'll be presenting projects to you guys in the future, opportunities to spend some of that money. So do you have any questions about the active project update?
Any questions for DJ? Commissioner Kelly?
Prior to number 6, which was is that a 57th Street bridge or overlay?
That is, it probably is 57th Street.
And
Yes.
do we
'cause
pay for the whole thing or just half?
What we've done with the county to the south of us there is we've split the sections of roadway. And so we have that, I think it's 4 or 5 miles, and then they have the next 4 or 5 miles to the state border. And rather than pay like the north half of the road and the south half of the road, we've actually split up. So we pay the entire road section on one section, and then they pay the entire road section on the next section.
Are they going to overlay also?
No, we are on different maintenance schedules on those sections of road.
Any other questions for DJ? Commissioner Penega?
Good morning, DJ, and first of all, I apologize for not calling you back yesterday. By the time I got done with that, you wouldn't have wanted the call after catching up. It was pretty late. On priority number 9, the bridge replacement, you talk a little bit about, on the others, it shows close-up pictures of the bridge, and this one doesn't have any, but it sounded to me like it was more of a width restriction issue than an inconvenience to some of the people who might be using it for commercial activity, like movers. Is that bridge a safety issue?
The biggest concern for me is, at this time, is the operational side, the width of it. It does have a federal sufficiency rating of 39, and so it is structurally deficient. The deficiencies with the structure are not critical such that it's going to fall over or anything like that, but it's degrading fast and it's in poor shape. And rather than do a rehab on this project, since it's a narrow structure, the answer is to do a replacement.
So does that rating move it up further into the list compared to some of the other projects that you're looking at? When you use the 39 rating, I don't know that we've seen ratings on the other safety issues.
It's a relatively low rating compared to compared to most of the other ones. The thing that moves this up in priority is that it's on a posted bridge on our county highway system, and we prioritize those more importantly than we do a structure on a township road system because of the level of traffic on it.
I guess I understand that piece of it. Is it possible to get the safety ratings on the other projects that you're looking at that are obviously bridge-related issues?
The first thing that we do when we consider any of these projects is consider a rehab, and we would prefer not to do a replacement because they're significantly more expensive. And some of them, I noted 2 of them here today. We are doing rehabs on those structures. The rest of them that I've noted that are replacement structure, we've already evaluated, and it's not feasible to do a rehab project on those.
Okay.
There are other bridges that I haven't discussed in here that our own maintenance crews are doing rehab projects on. A lot of the maintenance stuff we try to do in-house if possible, because those are contracts that are very difficult to bid and have a contractor do those.
Go ahead.
May I continue? On the school issue, if you will, on La Mesa, when's that school supposed to be constructed and be completed for occupancy? That's not that far down the road, correct?
The middle school will be occupied this fall.
Wow.
Classes will be in session this fall. And then I haven't received a recent update, but my understanding is that they're immediately going to start construction, if they haven't already, on an elementary school, which will be in operation probably next year or the year after.
Any conversations with the city about, obviously, that being part of the city limits versus the county's responsibility?
Yes, we've had several conversations and coordination meetings on that stretch of road, both Madison Street and La Mesa. They do intend on annexing La Mesa in the long term, probably 10 to 15 years. And so the improvement for $200,000 that I suggested earlier is basically a 10-year improvement that would allow us to not have to go out there and maintain gravel on a highly traveled road on a regular basis. But it's not going to last 20, 25 years. That's a 10-year project. And we tried to get the city to participate in the project, and simply they're not interested. They are helping with some of their planning efforts and coordination efforts and traffic analysis and things like that, pavement analysis, but financially towards the construction, they're not interested in helping out, and I understand.
Do you think they'd be more interested if we had a jail expansion across the street? Kidding.
I don't know if that's one of the locations that is being looked at or not, but if it is, I hope you let me know. We might reevaluate our design for pavement.
The other thing I have a question about is, do we have an established policy about balance carried forward, a percentage of the budget for what bridge, we'll call them reserve, should be? I believe that conversation needs to be had at some point, because that's one of those issues that is a policy and procedure issue, that we should have something in writing that states that this is the cash values that we expect to maintain while we look at future projects, and then we also can do a better job of long-range planning if we have cash needs that frankly exceed our reserves. So that's something I believe that we should have in place before we have an operating budget put together.
Commissioner Kelly?
No, I agree with Commissioner Bettingham on that. I thought at one time we had talked $3 million, but my question is, that bridge, that 1970 bridge, that was pretty bad. I can't remember which priority it is. 7, is that right?
That's correct.
Why did that bridge deteriorate so fast? I mean, we've got bridges out there that are 100 years old that are in better shape than this.
You know, the story that I've heard is, and this part of it is true, there's a lot of concrete structures that are that era of age, 1970-ish, that have deteriorated extremely fast. Most of them are a double T structure, the section of the bridge, similar to those that we went under on Highway 121 that day. And I've heard that it's a concrete issue. There's also some, you could maybe just call them design flaws in that type of structure that has some critical weak points that causes certain pieces of the structure to break apart, like you can see in some of those pictures. And it's something that we see on a vast majority of our structures that are that era of double T structure. And it's not just this county. SDSU is working on a research project right now to try to find a replacement section as opposed to these concrete double Ts. These are really cheap bridges to build, and so we built a lot of them. A lot of counties built a lot of them. And SDSU is trying to find an alternative that is also inexpensive but doesn't have those critical weak points. So I think it's probably a combination of the critical weak points and the concrete that was used in the 1970s, based off of what people have told me.
Commissioner Kelly?
And the other day we discussed, you said there's some new trucking regulations coming that'll require load limit postings on almost everything. Are you in a position to brief us a little on what's going on
A
there?
little bit, and it's not almost everything. But there's a new load rating that that the federal government has come out with, and they've sent us a memo that briefs government agencies on it. It's called an SHV load rating, and it's, if you can imagine, some of the trucks that you may have seen around that are pretty short trucks that have a whole bunch of axles. It allows us a small truck to carry a really heavy load. Those types of trucks are a new design vehicle that most structures just in the last couple of years even haven't been designed for. And the point, or the concentrated loads that are created for that type of vehicle, when they go over a short bridge, it can often exceed the load rating that was never really designed for that type of structure. And so every one of our bridges are going to have to be looked at and analyzed for this load rating, and if they don't have the capacity, then they're going to have to be posted. So it's very feasible that a bridge even under construction today could be posted within the next couple of years. And the briefing memo that we got does not speak to this, but from what I've heard talking to our contacts in Pierre that work for the FHWA, there's probably going to be a phasing plan where they don't phase the load limit in like next January or something like that, so they all have to be posted in January, but maybe over the next few years or several years possibly, that load rating is going to be phased in.
Was there a comment period on this, or, I mean, to change a regulation, don't they have to have a comment?
The first time that I have ever heard of it was when we got this briefing memo, but more than likely there was probably a couple of years worth of comment period.
Is it a done deal now?
It sounds like it, yeah. And every agency...
It would seem to me that, I mean, this affects every county in the country.
Every township, everything.
It affects every agency in the country.
Yeah, so have we had any communication with our representatives, or?
Not our representatives, no. We've been it's been a very hot topic at all of our meetings that have more than one agency. We all talk about it. Other than that briefing memo, we don't have a lot of information, and even our FHWA contacts, they don't have a lot of information. They sent out the briefing memo, and I think that they have had a lot of backlash since then. And so, similar to our MUTCD updates that we've seen over the years, they send, or even the water regulation, they'll send out a new regulation or new requirements, and then they'll have a lot of backlash, and then they'll kind of renege on some of the requirements and make them not as strict. So we're hoping that happens, but who knows?
Shouldn't we be a little more proactive, either just on a local level or on a state level
Yeah,
and we've got two senators with pretty good seniority and a representative in second terms.
what we have started on the local level, literally the week that we received that memo, we instructed all of our consultants to revise their design calculations to include the SHV loading. And so all of our structures from the last probably 3 or 4 months have been designed for this loading. But anything that was already under construction or previously designed is what will be impacted. And I think that it is probably a good idea that we contact our congressmen to see if we can get them to.
This is obviously a trucking industry deal, and I don't know where the end users or the people who are going to have to change their bridges have been in this process, but to me it's a much more serious project. It's one of these little changes that makes huge amounts of money, cause huge amounts of expenditures on local levels.
Commissioner Barth.
Commissioner Kelly, I certainly understand your concern there, but perhaps what we need to do is ban the type of truck that will cause these bridges to become obsolete. If there's a new invention that's going to damage our bridges and injure people, maybe the solution isn't to complain about regulations that try to protect the public, but to worry about this new invention that's come along. And I certainly understand how I've seen those concentrated wheels on vehicles, and who knows what load that will put on our bridges. And certainly, as we get windmills coming into our county, we're going to have very heavy loads coming, and I would hope that they have more than 2 axles. Anyway, thank you.
Commissioner Peckus?
Well, I think the significant situation, and what I think Commissioner Kelly is talking about, is that with these new design trucks, and I've seen those. For example, I was driving down the street, there was a House oil truck in front of me. It wasn't a big truck, but it had 3 axles, in tandem, kind of like when there's a little too much weight, that extra axle's on the ground. I've seen waste management trucks like that. And more significantly, there are agricultural trucks that have that 3rd axle that run along. And if we've got these little bridges all over Minnehaha County, and we have an agricultural-based economy, and we already have businesses and operations that have invested in those types of vehicles and had huge expenditures to try to stay up with their particular fleets of vehicles. The reality is that this is going to have a huge impact if we start requiring our local farmers to drive 5 miles out of the way to cross over an interstate bridge instead of using all the bridges that we're building across Minnehaha County. So I do think that some people invested a lot of money in these types of trucks, and I don't think just regulating it away is going to be ban the trucks. It's kind of like everybody has to buy their buggy whips. It's just not that's not realistic because people have already invested their money. This is going to be a significant impact for rural counties. I really believe that.
Madam Chair, I have a different question. DJ, and maybe you don't know, but when the legislature passed the law allowing us to increase the vehicle licensing for the purpose of using it in our roads, it was a staggered implementation. Has that fully been implemented now?
I believe last year was the full implementation, last July.
So we're seeing that increase last year and this year?
Right. And the second phase of that was very difficult to estimate the impact. And so this is really our first year that we're seeing the true numbers. And maybe Darlene could speak more to that. But the revenues that we're seeing are a little bit higher than at least our department was estimating. And that's part of the reason that we have the $5.7 million.
That's good.
Any other questions or comments for DJ? DJ, thank you for the presentation. It is something we talked about, and we talked about trying to do it in the spring and then maybe again in the fall to kind of see where we're at and just to bring the commission more up to date with what's going on with highway on a regular basis. So I thank you for that. Move on.
Item number 11, consider bid award for project MC 121-138 MS 14, microsurfacing on County Highways 121 and 138. Bids were opened on March 12th, 2014. DJ Boothby.
All right, Commissioners, we received 5 bids for a microsurfacing project, and our preliminary opinion of cost, our engineer's estimate was $710,000, and that was based off of last year's bid items that both we received and the City of Sioux Falls received. And this year we had a much better prepared set of bid documents than what we used last year. And we had, like I said, planned on bidding it with the City of Sioux Falls. Things fell through and we ended up bidding it separately. So essentially what we had was a large amount of quantities in a rural setting where they're able to do a large volume of work on a daily basis, as opposed to inside the city limits where they're working in neighborhoods and stuff like that. And so we feel that's the biggest reason that we saw the big cost savings that we did. Our bids were fairly tight, close together, and it's not like we received one really super low bid and then the rest of them were $700,000. And so we are requesting award to Monarch Oil, Inc. For $404,113.40.
Are there any questions for DJ?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barth?
DJ, estimating high makes it look like we're getting a good deal. Are we getting a good deal? I know if I take my car into the shop and they say it'll cost $1,000 and then I get the bill for $700, I'm happy. Are we estimating too high?
Well, like I had said, what we were basing our opinion of cost on was previous year's bids. that included the city contract in and amongst the neighborhoods, and then our own contract that was bid very late in the year. We received one bid on that, and the contractor even told us he shouldn't have bid it because he had a full schedule. And so we think that we probably paid a premium last year. This year our quantities are much higher, and we're in more of a rural setting, even more so than we were last year. And the bids that we received, all 5 of them were within $120,000. And so we feel that these are very good bids. If we received one bid that was $404,000, and like I said, the rest of them were $700,000, then we would be very concerned about that low bid. But since all of them are fairly close together, we are very comfortable with the bid.
Any other questions for DJ? Entertain a motion.
Make that motion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve, to award the bid for project MC 121-138, MC 14. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 12 is consider a recommendation for bid awards for various materials for the Highway Department for the annual highway materials letting. Bids opened February 26, 2014. This action was deferred from the March 11, 2014 meeting. DJ Boothie.
This action was deferred from March 11th due to some possible, or due to some irregularities in the bidding process. Did you want to comment? Otherwise, I'm going to have Kirsten talk about it. Kirsten?
Oh, okay,
You.
sure.
You're up.
Okay, great. There was some concern, I know, expressed by the commission that led you to basically table this item last week about whether certain bid security or bid bonds were required for some of the material letting that, or bids that were taken last week. Did a little bit of research. Of course, there was some changes in those statutes. 2010, I believe, a lot of those statutes changed. Looking at what was actually asked for in the asphalt specifically was the main question presented. And looking at those chapters in South Dakota law, it appears that the bid security requirement in statute, at least, only arises under the chapter number 518B, and that by definition applies to public improvement projects. And public improvements are defined elsewhere in statute in a manner that, leads me to believe that letting asphalt materials does not fall under that particular chapter. It's not a public improvement. Public improvements are defined as the process of building, altering, repairing, improving, or demolishing any public infrastructure facility, including any structure, building, or other improvements to real property. If you were to define this type of bid as falling under public improvements, that would make any sort of material that the county would try to obtain a public improvement. So I think the line is drawn short of this. Now, if this were to actually do the paving with that asphalt materials, then I do think it's a public improvement that would fall under 518B. I know there was a mention that bid bonding was required by the terms of the document that went out when we invited bids, and while that is true, I did look at that. There is a provision to waive what's called technical irregularities under 15-18A, which governs the material bids that we're talking about here, that says the purchasing agency may waive technical irregularities in the bid or proposal of the low bidder or offerer, which irregularities do not alter the price, quantity, quality of the services or items of tangible personal property bid or offered. Under that statute, I believe that the failure to post a bid bond is waivable on our behalf. Of course, best practices is to make sure that that requirement is only in there when required or when desired, but as far as that being a technical irregularity, I believe statutes do give you the authority, if you wish, to waive that technical irregularity. So that's essentially the legal opinion.
Okay. Commissioner Barth?
Madam Chair, thank you. DJ, despite the fact that it might be perfectly legal, our history on this particular area has been pretty dubious over the past few years. And I feel like our whole, the good faith of Minnehaha County is in question when we construct our bids to be like this one. I certainly understand that maybe this RAS material is a superb product, but to construct it in a way where only one company can bid on it. I mean, if you had a bid for North Dakota maple syrup or something, maybe only one company can bid on it. And the history of these transactions has really got me quite upset. And the fact that I didn't catch it when you first mentioned it, you first mentioned that only one company was going to be able to bid on one of these things. Well, I thought it was going to be like the difference between bidding on asphalt and bidding on a stainless steel conveyor. Only one company sells stainless steel conveyors. And I'm kind of upset about this. I don't want to micromanage your department, but if I have to do that, I guess I have to do that. And it's my fault that I didn't look at it more carefully originally, but I'm kind of ticked off about this.
May I
Yeah.
mention something quick? Just to be clear, the bid security issue is different than the specifications of the product issue. I just want to make sure we understand that I'm opining only on that, and
if
the
I
other
may-
is a policy decision for you, and it's a decision for the department. I just
And
wanted
what's
to be clear about
technically
that.
legal is different than what's right.
Oh, that's true, but it's a separate issue.
Are there any other comments from commissioners? Commissioner Benega?
Well, I didn't get a chance to look back at the tape from last week, but, there's two issues here. One is the legal versus practical, and I understand where Commissioner Barr's coming from. My concern is that we've already opened and revealed the bids. Even if we've made a mistake, which I believe we have at some point, in not maybe changing our practical way of doing things. And in fact, I believe that the city, if I remember right, opens the bid request, the envelope for bid bonds first, if I remember. And if you don't have a bid bond, you don't open the bid. Maybe that's something that needs to be looked at in the future for us. From a legal standpoint, maybe we do not need to do that. But from a practical standpoint, I think there is a difference because, frankly, if I receive a bid request in the mail and that's what is required of me or what the specifications say, that's kind of what I'm expecting to provide. And I think so there is a difference between practical and legal. But now that all the prices are exposed, we're doing a disservice to everybody else who's a vendor to say that here's the view of what this project's going to cost, and to re-bid it isn't going to change the dollar amounts. So I have a real concern about, going forward, but I frankly don't think we have much of a choice.
Commissioner Barth?
I absolutely agree with you, Commissioner Benega. That said, a couple of years ago, when it appeared that the Highway Department was going to have to buy it from one party, they actually stopped paving for the year. Do we need to do paving this year? We apparently didn't need to the rest of that year.
Commissioner Kelly?
I see some of the parties involved in this are here. Are you going to allow public input on this?
If that's all right with you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Merlin Rice, you want to speak, or Sweetmans? Merlin Rice. Just give your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Patty Knorr, and I live at 600 East Meadowlark Trail. I am one of the owners of Merlin Rice Paving. We've been in business over 50 years. We've been here in Sioux Falls that whole time. We've been bidding asphalt to Minnehaha County since the 1970s. We've worked hard to maintain a good relationship with all county personnel over the years, and Minnehaha County has been a very important customer for us. We have, however, also what's important to us is our reputation in this community. And after reading the comments that were given to the Argus Leader by the highway superintendent in last week's newspaper, we feel compelled that we need to set the record straight. And it has to do with the bid letting process that was, you guys discussed last week, and then also just the history of that bid letting process. So I'd like to take a few moments to talk about that. In 2012, for your asphalt materials letting, Merlin Royce Paving was the low bidder. You received 2 bids as you usually do, but Merlin Royce Paving was the low bidder. Due to the volatility of the oil market, we need to lock in a price. When we're a low bidder and we enter into a contract with a customer, we have to lock in that oil price so that we can guarantee we can deliver that material at that price. So we entered into a contract to purchase that oil, and it was approximately a $600,000 contract. Shortly after the award, we discovered that the county was buying the asphalt from the other vendor. Now, historically, we discovered that the county, it had been common practice that the county would award to both, but the practice had always been to buy from the low bidder. So essentially, the practice had been to award to the low bidder, even though the official award went to both. You guys always bought from the low bidder. So you can see we were very concerned when we had entered in this contract for $600,000 and the material was being sold to the competitor. So we contacted this deputy state's attorney, who was Gordy Swanson at the time, sat down with him and showed him the state statute that states that the county and all public entities have to award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder. And I was surprised to read in the Argus Leader the statement that the highway superintendent gave, that he said that he interpreted that it was the practice that for the county that was not legal. I mean, that was not how that transpired. And why I was surprised about that is he had been the one that initiated buying from both vendors. So after we met with Gordy Swanson, the county started buying hot mix from Merlin Royce Paving again. Later that same season, on Friday, July 20th, the highway superintendent informed us that he had an item on the county commission agenda where he was going to ask to buy off the City of Sioux Falls contract with another vendor. He stated that since the city had a lower price for asphalt, he could save the county money. However, his intention was to abandon our contract mid-season and buy that asphalt from the competitor. I will remind you that we were already saving the county money as we were the low bidder to that same competitor at the county's letting on April 18th. But at the county commission meeting, he announced that he needed to withdraw that item, excuse me, as the other vendor was not able to honor the price for the remainder of the asphalt needs. So that very day of that commission meeting, he told the asphalt crews of the county that they were done paving for asphalt for the year and then they needed to focus the crews on other needs. So on Friday, he called us to tell us that he was intending to buy off of the city's contract for asphalt, but on Tuesday decided that they no longer needed asphalt and was going to stop paving for the year. So therefore, in 2012, there had been 3 separate attempts to buy the asphalt off of the other vendor, even though we were the low bidder to the Minnehaha County. So in 2013, there was no asphalt. The county did not have any asphalt on their materials letting, and instead opted to buy off of the city's contract. I just want to explain that there is a misconception that the city always gets a lower price of asphalt than the county because they have their bid letting prior to Minnehaha County and they buy a larger quantity. And that is a misconcept because we checked our records. In 2004 and in 2005, Minnehaha County actually received lower bids for asphalt than the city. And so therefore it was not a given that the city's price would be lower had the county had their own letting. And I was very surprised to read in the Argus Leader that the highway superintendent's reason for not having a letting for the county was that, and buying off of the city's contract, was that most of the county's work was closer to the other vendor's plant. This statement is absolutely not true. We have an asphalt plant that's just south of Ellis, it's on the west side of town, and it is closer to any rural county project than the other vendor's west side plant, which is located in Sioux Falls. So my question is, why then was there no letting for 2013? Because it obviously wasn't the reason that was stated to the Argus Leader. After that history, now we have 2014, which is the item that we're discussing today. I attended the January 28 meeting that you guys had here where you were talking about changes to the county's bid letting, and you asked a number of very good questions as there had been a lot of changes to the structure of the bid letting. Sioux Falls, the City of Sioux Falls has accepted a bid for asphalt shingle mix for the last 2 years. And it is common knowledge throughout the city and the county that there is only one vendor for shingle asphalt mix in Sioux Falls. And when the city first decided that they wanted to try the asphalt shingle mix, they met with us, They met with the other vendor. They met with all other stakeholders. And it was after that, then they wrote their specifications and their bidding process. In their bid letting, they have two separate items for asphalt mix. The first item is for regular hot mix asphalt, and the other is for a smaller amount of shingle mix. They award both items. That way they specifically do this so that they get two competitive bids for the majority of their asphalt supply, and then they get their one bid for their asphalt shingle mix, which is their new experimental material that they want to try out. But now, instead of using the city's model for materials bid letting regarding asphalt shingle mix, which is already a proven model, the county superintendent decided to do it his own way. But unlike the city's process, the way that the county structured his bid letting gave a clear advantage to the other vendor. Instead of having two separate bid items, which both would be awarded, the way the county's bid letting was structured, that there was only going to be one contract. The highway superintendent told the artist leader that the last thing we want as an owner engineers is to be specifying a product or service that only a single provider can provide. But that is exactly how this was structured. On January 28th, another comment that the highway superintendent made at this meeting was that they were going to be purchasing several items off state and city contracts. And in the regards to asphalt, there would be multiple bidding opportunities to get the best price. We took that to mean that if by chance Merlin Royce happened to be the low bidder for the asphalt supply, that the highway would not likely award the bids and instead would wait until the city had their letting, therefore allowing two opportunities to receive an awardable bid from his preferred asphalt supplier. His statement was very clearly made on January 28th that that was his motivation. In light of this obvious advantage to our competitor and our experiences of 2012 and 2013, it led us to the conclusion that we had to turn in a no bid, or in other terms, a vote of no confidence. And this was not an easy decision by any means. This is $1 million contract, and that is a very large contract for our firm. However, during the bid letting, we purposely enclosed the required bid bond with our bid. It is common industry knowledge that if a bid bond is not included when it is required, as your document stated, the bid is determined to be non-responsive and not even open. We wanted the county commission to know that we did not forget the bid, but we purposely did not bid. So now with regards to the bid bond, at your last meeting last week, our Vice President Darrell Hoyer was here, and he was present when the highway superintendent proposed to award the asphalt bid. Mr. Hoyle was not planning on speaking, however, he felt compelled to say something when it was apparent that the highway superintendent was not going to inform this body or legal counsel that the bidder who was recommended awarding the project to had failed to provide the required bid bond. The highway superintendent is a professional engineer. He knows that the absence of a bid bond is a very big deal. He knows that the industry standard is to declare such a bid as non-responsive, and we felt it was his duty to bring that to your attention, not just a common Joe citizen who was sitting in the audience. And we also feel that this omission of a critical fact is yet one more attempt to demonstrate a clear pattern of bias on the part of the county's highway superintendent. Now, going forward, you have a big decision before you today. What's going to happen to the price of asphalt if there's only one bidder? If you look at other cities and counties in this area already, they pay on average $20 higher per ton of asphalt than we do here in Sioux Falls, because competition has been good for this community. I have something I would like to show you. Is there an overhead or something that I can just put it on here? Oops, thank you. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Okay. As you can see, what this is that not only do we Merlin Royce Paving provide mix supply, we also do overlays for the county. This is just in recent history since 2006 where Merlin Royce's bid was compared to the second bidder. These were projects that we were low bidder on, and the savings then that went to Minnehaha County taxpayers with Merlin Royce Paving being the low bidder on these projects. We are able to do this because we are the only provider in the area that is fully vertically integrated. We have our own materials, we make our own asphalt, we do our own construction, and so we are able to provide the county this kind of savings. We just wanted you to demonstrate this, that this is a very significant savings to Minnehaha County in and of itself, with the confidence that we had bidding projects in Minnehaha County in the past. And we have nothing to gain whether or not you decide to award the asphalt mix today. I mean, we already demonstrated, we turned in no bid, so therefore there's no way we're going to be able to backdoor and gain this award, whether or not what you decide. But we just felt that we needed to bring it to your attention that this omission was made, that you had time to take to review with your council so that you guys knew what, exactly what that decision involved, and you had time to make that decision. And I really thank you for giving me the opportunity to then describe the events that led up to our presenting no bid. I felt it was important to describe that to you, and I hope I clearly described it. It was something that was very difficult for us to do, as I said, because we have always valued our opportunity to work for Minnehaha County. However, there has been a clear pattern of bias that has been demonstrated by the current highway superintendent, and we felt we had no other option as we currently have no faith of fair dealings with the highway department.
Are there any questions for Merlin Rice? Is there anybody else that would like to speak on one side or another?
I will.
Okay. If you just identify yourself and give your name and address.
I'm John Malloy, 200 East 34th Street, and I'm the Aggregate Division Manager for Concrete Materials. We were the other vendor that submitted our bid for the material supply. We inadvertently forgot to include a bid bond or a cashier's check. This was the first year Minnehaha County required that for this supply contract. And just oversight on our part, gave you a very good price for both mixes, and we just hope that we can be awarded with your business.
Madam Chair.
Any questions? Commissioner Barth.
I would just say that Concrete Materials has been a great corporation in our area here, and the Sweetman family has been wonderful in our charitable and community services. And this really doesn't have to do with, you guys. That said, I understand the issue on the deposit or the bond, and you did eventually then drop off a check, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for John?
Well,
Commissioner
Did
Kelly?
you make the comment this is the first year they've ever required a bid bond on asphalt?
As far as I know, yes.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Any questions for the Highway Superintendent, DJ?
I have a question, I guess.
Commissioner Barth?
DJ, you need this product to complete your operations this summer, right?
Yes.
And you feel that the RAS stuff in the asphalt is going to work for us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion. No, Commissioner
The only,
Flanagan?
TJ, the only question I have at this point is in the RAS requirement, that seems like it's a one-horse pony at this point. Why wasn't that separated from the rest of the group?
Well, we did have two different bid schedules, trying to get competition of bids. And with the bid schedule that did include the RAS, the cost difference between the two bid schedules is 0.8%. And so I don't feel that we had an unbalanced bid of any type, and I don't think that our bid was biased by any stretch of the imagination. And it was very clear to me that we, by including two bid schedules, we're trying to create a competitive bid environment. One of the several quotes that was mentioned previously was that to the Argus leader that we want nothing more than a competitive bid environment. You guys know the status of the department that I took over in December 2011, and it was pretty damn bad. And I've done nothing but try to fight for this damn department to try to do the right thing. And to be thrown under the bus like this in front of the county commission really ticks me off. And if you guys don't think I'm doing a good job, then you better tell me.
DJ, the question is more about not the 0.8%, is that we have two bid schedules, if you will, And I was more interested in why we didn't put it into 3. And I understand the 0.8% and all that kind of stuff. But since this is such a new concept and a new experience, if you will, it probably would have been better off for us to have that taken out of the normal part of business, so to speak, on products that we have more experience with, and put this in as an alternate or an individual bid schedule.
It is an individual, well, okay. We could have had the RAS a completely separate bid schedule.
Hindsight's always 100%.
Great. Any other questions or comments for DJ?
Yeah.
Commissioner Kelly?
DJ, do you believe that you had a bias against the Merlin Royce?
No, absolutely not. We do business with them on all of our overlay projects. Absolutely not. I have had no negative history with Merlin Royce. I'm very well aware of many negative confrontations that they've had with different agencies, and I've never experienced that until this.
Thank you.
If there's no other comments, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
I
Barth?
make a motion to award these as listed.
I have a motion to award the various materials for the Highway Department for the annual highway materials bid letting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have
Madam
a
Chair.
motion and a second. Commissioner Barth?
Again, I agree with Commissioner Benega that at this point, there's no use in crying over spilt milk. We need to go forward.
We need a roll call vote?
Well, if I may.
Yep, Commissioner.
I asked last week, they really, Merlin Warriors were really candid about the fact that, you know, the bid, I'm looking right at it, it says the county intends on awarding either bid schedule A or bid schedule B. Vendors may bid on either bid schedule or both. They admitted they didn't bid. It's, that's why I seconded the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Would you like to speak to this, Doug?
I would just like to make an analogy, this is Patty with Milner's Paving again. The way that the bid structure was set up is that, I'm going to use cars for an example, okay? Let's pretend the county needed 20,000 vehicles. The way that the bid structure is set up, you could bid either 20,000 pickups or 15,000 pickups and 5,000 Yugos. We're going to award to whoever's low. Which one's going to be low every time? Okay? That's the way the city does it. You're going to bid 20,000 pickups, excuse me, thank you, sir, 15,000 pickups, and then 5,000 Yugos. 2 separate bids, okay? I just wanted to make that analogy of the difference between when there's a separate bid item. That was the difference between the way the city does it and the way the county's bid was.
Any
May I
other comments?
respond, I guess?
Commissioner Barth?
Ms. Knorr, you're absolutely right, and I have to say that I did not look at it hard enough when those came forward, and I blame myself.
Any other questions or comments? I do have a motion and a second on the table. I have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Pecos?
Aye.
Benega?
I'll pass for a minute.
Commissioner Barth?
Aye.
Heiberger?
Aye.
Benega?
I'm going to vote aye, but I'd like to make a comment if I will. I know it's too late, but
Can I finish the bid? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Motion passed 5-0 with a comment from Commissioner Benega.
you know, again, I think this thing was an issue on how it was put together, and unfortunately, that some of the problems should have been discussed prior to the bid opening, and they weren't. But what I really want to say is I think we need to reconsider the process of the bid letting issues and having legal approve any changes that we've made in past history, if you will, to make sure that we have all of our T's crossed, I's dotted, and frankly, if there's a policy change or a practical change that's changed from many years of history, that we acknowledge that to the vendors. Because I think that if the vendors are used to doing business a certain way over the last 15, 20 years, if we do make a significant change with bid bond requirements or whatever, I think we need to make an extra effort to communicate that.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right, I guess we'll go
Moving on.
forward. Yep.
Item 13 is a discussion on establishing a capital accumulation for a large expenditure under the authority of SDCL 7-21-51. Bob Litz, Ken McFarland, and Darlene Johnson will be presenting.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Ken.
As you know, the County Commission faces almost every year very tough budget decisions, and it always seems that there's, for very large projects or very large expenditures that the Commission knows may be out there, it's sometimes difficult to budget for that given our tight revenue sources. And a lot of times those projects become the victim during the budget cutting acts, in order to balance the budget. What we'd like to talk to you about today is something that you've raised as issues during budget hearings, is the idea of establishing by state statute, and the one I'm referring to is 7-21-51, that allows you to establish a capital accumulation for the purposes of a large expenditure that might be out there that you wish to address. And under the terms of 7-21-51, this would allow you to set aside, as it were, or designate, and that's the proper term, is to designate an amount of funds that would be used for this capital accumulation purpose. And under the law, you can do this up to a period of 5 years, and it has a maximum amount of $5 million that can be, quote, designated in this capital accumulation. And that one of the reasons why we're bringing this to you now and bringing it up for discussion is, as you know, one of the our most current bank franchise tax distribution, and that was approximately $435,000 over what we projected that we would receive this year. Now, I realize it's early in the year, but all things being equal, and that would come in, if everything came in during our budget projections as we forecasted, both our expenses and our revenues, as we adopted that budget, this would indicate that you have a little flexibility here to have the capability of at least establishing the fund in at least that dollar amount. And we've talked about internally at the auditor's office, between Darlene and Bob and myself, we've talked about that given the fact of our current fund balance in the general fund, the fact that the bank franchise tax did come in, where it did, and that was an unexpected, that we believe that you could start this process of setting up the capital accumulation by designating an initial $500,000 for this purpose. Now, one of the tricks of 7-21-51, or one of the requirements, is that you have to state what is the purpose that these funds are going to be used for. So you need to identify a project or an expenditure that that you would like to use this money for. And so what the purpose of today's meeting and what we've done is to give you a copy of what 7-21-51 says, what our current general fund cash balance is at this juncture, and a sample resolution that would be used, that you could use to establish it. And as you can see, that it sets a dollar amount that you would initially hope to designate each year, and that, or any other amount that you decide, during that period of 5 years. And then you have to state, again, what are the funds to be assigned for the purchase or completion of X. And so today's discussion is to help establish what X might be. And our hope is, if you've after your discussion, or when you're prepared to do so, we would bring to you then the resolution that would be necessary to set up the capital accumulation and to have those funds designated for that purpose. Now, I've looked at this, and of course I have my own opinion on what might be some priorities, but I wanted this opportunity for you to have that discussion amongst yourselves on some of those items that you think would be a priority. And of course, being as attuned as you are with the financial conditions of the county, you know that we have multiple needs. I mean, there are building needs that we have, there are large capital expenditure needs that we have for perhaps upgrade of equipment, but this is your opportunity to, because of our current condition and the fact that the bank franchise tax did come in higher than expected, that you can begin that process of designating those funds and as it were, setting it aside to accomplish a major project.
This is something we've talked about for the last couple of years, hoping that we'd be in a position at some time to set aside some additional funds to work on a project that would affect the whole entire county organization. I think we've all been thinking and talking about it. I'm just wondering if anybody wants to make any comments. I mean, I'm sure you do. Kirsten.
Just briefly, and if you mentioned this, I'm sorry, but I just want to point out too that if you do designate these funds for these purposes, when the resolution is signed, you got 7 years to spend it, and it has to be spent.
It has to be spent.
Designate it.
Okay.
For that purpose. So that may affect.
I have one question for you, Kirsten.
Yeah.
Is there I was thinking I'd read in here somewhere that there was a way that if it wasn't going to work, that we could divert it back to the original fund it came from? I think so.
Is there?
I thought I read it in here somewhere. That would be something we need to look at for sure. Oh,
It's in the statute.
it's in the
It
statute.
is,
Okay.
yeah, it's right there, it's in black and white.
If it says it is no longer
721.51.
necessary, the funds shall be reverted to the fund from which the funds were originally appropriated,
Yep.
and the amount of the accumulation in the specific purpose may not exceed $5 million.
Right.
So-
Okay.
Okay, so that's just another comment on the table. Commissioner Kelly.
Ken, and maybe Darlene's going to have to answer this, at the end of 13, after all the adjustments were made, what was the difference in budget and actual?
Okay, Darlene Johnson, Auditor's Office. Are you looking at revenues, the difference between the budget and the actual revenues?
Well,
I have both, I guess, so, but also I'll start with the revenues.
No, because it would have to include expenses, too.
Okay, I do have both. On the general fund revenue, we were over budget by just at $500,000. Expenditures, we were under budget, which is good, and the general fund by $2.2 million.
Good. Commissioner Bendigo.
So,
I've said this so many times, you guys are sick of hearing this, but I'm going to say it one more time. There's a big difference between budget and cash. And we have to take that into account. And cash is frankly the name of the game, not budget issues and not expenditures and not revenue. So I think that the idea is a good one. Mr. Litt started this conversation a couple years ago. We've talked about it on and off. Frankly, I think there are a lot of priorities that we need to look at, but this ought to be part of the quote budget process more than it should be an individual come later after the close of the year conversation. And cash, again, is important, but we all know that we got one-time expenditures coming up for either building issues, accounting software issues, or whatever's been recommended that need to be addressed. And first of all, I think we need to put together a priority list based on those, quote, cash balances, not revenue and expense balances. Am I out of line again?
No. I mean, one of the things that, I have this conversation with department heads all the time when they say, well, I turned back X amount of money, at the end of the year. No, You just didn't spend up to a spending authority that you initially had. As Commissioner Bennigan points out, cash is king. I mean, cash is what the county lives off of, and this is one of the reasons that we've provided you, because this really is probably the most accurate reflection of where your capabilities and where you're able to start this process is using your accumulated cash. Because like I said, I mean, we operate primarily on cash flow. And you can see by going through this how our cash flow really goes up and goes down during the course of the year. You know, where we're at the end of February of 2014, you know, this is the third highest that we've been since 2008. But you can see how precipitous this can be when you look at what our experiences were in 2011, in 2012, what our cash was looking like, and even in 2013, and that what our cash was looking like before we've done things such as, you know, cutting down in expenses. We've done the opt-out, you know, in order to try to bring some fiscal sanity back to our finances. And so, but again, this is, we think that you're in a position now with you know, the bank franchise tax distribution and where we're sitting at currently, that we feel at least comfortable that you can have this conversation and start realistically looking at doing that, a capital accumulation for those projects. Now, you're right. There's a number of things that you might want to take into priority. You know, one of the things that I looked at when, you know, trying to figure out, you know, what would be a good use of the funds is this something beyond our normal course of business? I mean, sure, we budget all the time for replacement of vehicles, and we budget for replacement of, you know, hardware for our computers. And so, I mean, there is, part of that is already in our normal budgeting process. But we were looking for some things that this perhaps could be used for, either to help for a building project perhaps, or was there another large expenditure that we've kind of put off for year after year because we just simply didn't have the money? And that's something that was a need. And that's why, at least in my briefing memo, I identified a project about upgrading our accounting system and that within the county. You know, the integration between the departments, the whole accounting package, you know, based on what we have now. But that's certainly not the only idea that's out there. I mean, I know some of you have had your own ideas, and it may be worth, like I put in the memo, that this may be something, too, that we would like to discuss with department heads and that solicit some input from them. But we just feel that you're in a good opportunity now, and that before we get too much further down the line, to at least signal your intent of this is something that you'd like to do and continue to discuss.
Commissioner Kelly.
How does this, you know, another discussion we've had is a rainy day fund. There was a lot of discussion when I was in Pierre, you know, in the legislature about rainy day fund. And if we end up going through another crisis like we did from, whatever it was, 09, 010, or 10.
Well, you can see on these years that we were really hurting in 11, 12, and started to pull out in 13.
But, you know, at that point, my thought was that you have this rainy day fund, I'll call it that for, I don't know what it really is called, and that you can then, you don't have to do things like a 5% payroll cut. You had some money to supplement that. Is that allowed, or is this not, is that something we cannot do?
I mean, I would give the opinion that this is be extraordinary nature, exceeds funding ability for a single budget year, and may result in the purchase of supply or services, materials, supplies, or equipment. I don't think that type of scheme would fall under this particular statute. And don't
call it a scheme.
Scenario.
I didn't mean to imply any negative connotations of that. But and that goes to just what I was trying to say before, I guess, about this is like once that special purpose is designated to You know, it's not like, oh, we've got an even more special purpose here. I just wanted to warn about that.
You know, and in answer to your question, Commissioner Kelly, if you're asking, you know, can you set up, quote, a true reserve type savings account that you can dip into whenever there's an emergency? You know, again, counties are statutory creations of the state, and we can only do what we're specifically authorized to do. This 7-21-51 comes as close to doing what you're envisioning that we do, but you need to set a specific purpose for the expenditure of those funds.
I agree that accounting package is extremely important, and this would be a great way to have the money available instead of having to make this conversion in 3 years and putting out whatever it's going to cost, $1 million or $2 million. But we can also affect that a little bit by what our attitude towards the fund balance is. We could take that into account and say, listen, we want the fund balance to be, or the cash, what do you call it? I'm sorry.
The general fund cash balance, you can establish
Cash
a
balance,
policy.
we would like to see that instead of at 11 million, we would like to see it at 12.
Or you can set a floor that we don't want to see it go below this amount.
Yeah.
Commissioner Barth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree that I like the idea of setting it aside. I think if we hold on to, say, $400,000, we'll nickel and dime it away in no time. And the fact that we were lucky enough to get some bank franchise money in excess of what we budgeted, certainly this seems like the beginning of what we could set aside correctly. I like Gerald's ideas. I like the idea of having a couple of proposals. The software one seems perfectly reasonable to me. I would just say that, you know, if the legislature had given us the 3% option in Senate Bill 111, our revenue would be up about $500,000 over what it will be. And I think that if we had that kind of revenue, it would be a lot easier to build this fund up to, say, a 1.2 million or whatever we need. And so I think, you know, an idea of opting out this year where we would go for that 1.6% that they didn't let us have, as opposed to every 3 years opting out for $4 million, instead opting out for $500,000 for the next couple of years to get ourselves out of the muck we're in. Additionally, you know, potentially if the governor or the legislature had brought in Medicaid expansion, it would have saved us hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars as well. And but what they've done, of course, is left us without any of these potential resources. And despite the fact that they didn't have the intestinal fortitude to do any of that, I personally am ready to go forward with any of that. So I like the idea of bringing forward a couple of projects, and I do think the budget season is the time to actually pick it, but that's my thoughts.
Commissioner Medica? I know you want to say something, I can tell.
That's horrible. You can. I would just remind us again that just primarily for media's sake, is there's a difference between the highway funds and the general funds, first of all, and this is general fund activity, not highway fund activity, completely separate. The other thing is that besides the budget issues, the reasons we have some cash flow, and I couldn't identify it, would be the fact that we've refunded bonds and opted out. So those two things have as much effect or more effect than any of the, quote, budget issues. So if you look at this chart where you're down to 1.3 million or 1.4 million in 2012, that's only a week's worth of, a little more than a week, less than 2 weeks of cash. And if you only had 2 weeks of cash in your checking account, you'd be a little nervous about upcoming bills that we're going to hit in the next month or so. So I think we need to be a little cognizant of that, because as you have already been told, and we all know, that spiking and roller coaster that we're on every year has to be considered in that conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, and you hit it right on the head, is that We are all about cash flow and managing our cash flow. Those 2 years on 2011 and 2012 when we were that low, I mean, believe me, there was a lot of anxious people in the auditor's office and my office, about, are we going to make it through this month? And we were taking extraordinary measures then about, holding on to some bills that maybe we had another 30 days to pay. All of that because it was managing cash flow. And Commissioner Bennigan is absolutely right. I mean, part of the reason that we've been able to rebound the way we have has been a combination of tight budget controls, and we can't minimize that opt-out. I mean, that opt-out has helped us regain our cash position. Absolutely.
And our refinance, which was one-time money.
Yeah.
So, Commissioner Barth.
As the proposal that we've seen is to replace our accounting system, I'd point out that that also affects our highway department, and they could chip in.
Well, this is just a discussion.
It
I'm
is.
just wondering if anyone has any comments on how you would like to proceed. Obviously, I think Commissioner Bellinger is right. We can't really make any decisions about this until after we've done the budget for 2014, going into 2015. But are there any comments about direction that you would like to have Ken move? Commissioner Kelly?
Well, maybe I'm wrong, if we did it before the budget, we would then have a vehicle in the budget to point to. Or does that not make any difference? I mean, we still have to identify a project, which is going to take some time, I suppose. But
I think we can look at a project. Obviously, I don't think we can stick any money in there until we know what money we need to spend this year.
If you'd like, I mean, like I said, even on the accounting project itself, I mean, we don't have a firm number on the magnitude of the cost that we might do. I mean, we've heard projections, et cetera. On the same token, and that we have not had this discussion with department heads either to see if there are other proposed, projects or something that could be there. The one thing I want to, caution, everybody about is that when you take a look at the nature of the statute, is it talks about an expenditure that is extraordinary in nature. It's not meant to, quote, supplement or supplant, some of our normal replacement schedules for things like maybe computer equipment and our normal thing for vehicles. That's not what it's meant to do. It's meant for something extraordinary in nature that we can identify, that we know is something that we need to do. So yeah, in essence, it can be considered, it's a one-time shot kind of a deal.
I guess I would kind of like to know some better numbers about what it would cost for us to replace their software and tax records. It's something that affects every single department in here. That doesn't mean we can do anything about it this year, but I think we at least need to know what direction we'd be going, because it's going to happen eventually.
And
whether we have to opt out to pay for it or we have to try to start saving for something.
And to get, and again, I mean, just for an example, on the software, on the accounting package, I mean, one of the things that we fully realize we will likely have to do is to commission some sort of a consultant to go and analyze our current system, identify what some of the perhaps packages are out there that could meet our needs for all of our departments, identify a cost associated with those packages, and to identify a timeline, that we can afford for implementation, and that might be based on what we've got accumulated. So it's those kind of things we will have to do if you're interested in proceeding down those lines.
Are there any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Well, I'll take the devil's advocate position. There's always strength in being liquid with some of our cash assets. And, once again, if we put this into, the accumulation of funds for capital purposes, they are going to be specifically designated for whatever extraordinary circumstances that we have. It's always nice to have a little bit of padding in the budget, and we will probably nickel and dime it, and we'll have different department heads come forward and say, we really need an extra patrol vehicle, or we need better handguns, or who knows what kind of law enforcement needs that we'll be peppered with. But ultimately, there is strength and also liquidity, and so I'm just taking that one viewpoint. But I'm open to a capital fund being established as well.
This was a discussion. I don't know that we decided anything other than maybe some direction. Is it all right if we have?
Well, I think we have I have
Ken,
enough
look
of a
forward.
sense that this is something that you definitely would like to explore in the coming months with budget time coming up. It'll give us some time to also have a discussion with the department heads to let them know what it is that you're thinking and to solicit some of their input. But I think the goal would be for us to perhaps present a couple of different purposes and some maybe anticipated costs that these special extraordinary expenditures would cost for you to help make a decision on this. So, but I just think we're finally in a position where you can at least have the discussion about doing these and meeting a critical need that we have. So.
All right. Commissioner Bennigan.
I'm not sure I know the answer to this, but is there any fuzziness or concerns about, we'll call them capital enhancement costs to do the needs assessment or the professional fees? Can that be capitalized in a construction project, if you will, so that you can use that as part of this policy? Let's say, for example, I know this would be a big surprise, but if we had to build or remodel a jail, and it's going to cost us $500,000 to do the engineering and needs assessments of understanding if the facility itself would handle those changes, can we capitalize those and take them out of that particular fund, or is that considered a professional fee that can't be capitalized?
When I take a look at how this law is structured, it says, and that for the purpose, the term capital outlay purposes includes any purpose which is extraordinary in nature, exceeds the funding ability of a single budget year, and may result in the purchase of services, materials, supplies, or equipment. My gut feeling without further research would be yes.
Okay, and I was hoping you'd say that, but the second thing I think...
That's my gut feeling.
I know. We need to go past your gut feeling and call the auditor and ask the Department of Revenue or, the people in Pier to clarify that, just to be sure, because I don't want to get dinged in an audit report that says, you guys can't do that. And get it in writing.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing I will remind you and point out here is that if we're going to do this, it requires a 60% vote majority of the commission to do so. So, 60%. And I think that equates to at least 4.
Oh, it's 3.
3 is 60.
3 does it. Because of a small...
60?
Yep, because of a small commission.
All right. I haven't done the math.
If we had 13 commissioners, it'd be different.
All right.
All right, thank you.
We'll move on.
The next item is Minnehaha County Commissioner Liaison Reports.
Do you have any liaison reports?
I'll just make a brief one. Yesterday, the group that's meeting on a regular basis in reference to public safety issues is ready to put together a final draft. It will be published in the next week or so, I think, maybe a little longer. Craig Anderson, who has got a handful of degrees and has been an extremely capable leader, has led us through that process. And he and the consultant, I believe, are coming in the next 3 weeks to discuss this in more detail. So it's going to be one of those major issues that has to be addressed. And that's part of this whole conversation that, frankly, will affect our budget for years to come.
Okay. Robert, did you want to say something?
I was just going to add that as of this morning, it appears that we have solidified that presentation will be on April 8th.
April 8th.
That's when we, looks like we've got a date that works for all committee members.
All right. Is there any other liaison reports? All right. Go on to new business, and I do believe we have some new business.
Good morning. My name is Chuck Martinell. I'm representing today the Sioux Empire Water Festival Committee. We have a proclamation here for our water festival, which is occurring today and tomorrow here in Sioux Falls. Whereas, I'll just read the proclamation, whereas the Big Sioux Aquifer underlies approximately 1,000 square miles and together with the Big Sioux River provides water to communities in southeastern South Dakota, and whereas providing 2,373 fourth grade children from 105 classes in 49 southeastern South Dakota schools with information about the protection and preservation of water, our most valuable resource, will help children make educated decisions concerning water in the future, and whereas this education is accomplished with the help of 100-plus volunteers from federal, state, county, and city governments and from private businesses, and whereas this is the 21st annual event, and whereas the County Commission, we hope you recognize the long-term benefits of this type of education and support our efforts.
Water Festival happens every year, and as Chuck said, in conjunction with help from Minnehaha County, and I would just look for a motion to approve the proclamation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Chuck. Any other new business? Any old business? Seeing none, we will adjourn into executive session for personnel and contract issues.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0.